Hi, everybody, and happy Wednesday. We are in the middle of the week and ready to start the Achieving Unity Success Formula. And I'm glad you're here. Our first screen, of course, is our Achieving Unity Guide. Hope you'll get a copy of it. QR code's down in the bottom left, or you can just go to the site at the Sign Up Dash newsletter and get directly into it. Okay. Success Focused Solutions produced by Reality Focused Dynamics. That's my company, Reality Focused Dynamics. The website home is on your left with a QR code. The website contact page to get hold of me is on your right, and I'd love to hear from you. This is our Achieving Unity Success Formula podcast, and this is number 30. Moving right along since we started last year. It's exciting. Hope you remember it is every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Put it on your calendar. We'd love for you to come back each and every week. Reality Focused Dynamics, Success Focused Solutions, that's our logo. We're here to help you discover how to eliminate draining conflicts and foster lasting harmony in your home, your workplace, and your social circles. Are you struggling with constant arguments and tension? Master a 7-step roadmap to shift swiftly from conflict to collaboration. Are you fed up with that miscommunication and broken trust? Adopt proven communication tactics that spark genuine connection and mutual respect. It's all about the honesty, being upfront about the truth and telling the truth, not putting things aside, but coming forward with the questions, not running somewhere else, but about coming forward with your thoughts and your questions with each other, personally and professionally. Are you tired of being overwhelmed? This is your chill pill. Are you are you feeling weighed down by negativity and low morale? We can unlock that mindset through breakthroughs to end those toxic cycles and reignite renewed positivity in our daily life. Are you overwhelmed by unstable teams, strained relationships? Implement immediate action steps to unify your circle, those you're around, people that influence you the most and that you influence the most. Boost productivity. Transform every environment that you touch. Are you ready to level up? Let's chat. Connect with me today and start optimizing your world. Software, there's a lot of computers out there. Excuse me. A lot of programs that we go to, but when you're winning at life, this is life hack stuff. Forget that technical jargon. Breaking things down and eliminating waste are your secret weapons. It's for everything, for your work, your family, and even your next DIY, do it yourself project. Imagine less stress, more wins, finally getting stuff done, getting beyond those struggles, opening up. Why should you care or why you should care? Again, tired of being overwhelmed? Agile and lean communication and collaboration are the chill pills. You want to be the hero at your work, at your home, in your life? These are your cheat codes. Are you ready to get things done? Yeah, us too. Call to action, and everything needs that CTA, that call to action. Let's ditch the drama and get stuff done. Hit us up. We'll show you how to turn your life from a dumpster fire to a well-oiled machine. Minimizing decision fatigue, reducing that time that is spent searching can help everyone participate in a smoother and more efficient process. Contact Reality Focused Dynamics today. You can get to us at therealityfocuseddynamics.com. Call me at 303-368-7354. Love to talk with you. Because in Achieving Unity, we have courses, we have keynote speeches, and we have workshops. And they're all through the EII. And if you've been reading my newsletter, you know that that's encouragement, inspiration, and inclusion. Encouragement fuels the power of empowerment. Lift others up to help them reach their goals. Inspiration drives achievement. When we inspire each other, we accomplish so much more. Unity makes us stronger, makes us a more successful team. Inclusion creates that unstoppable momentum. You can celebrate every victory, big or small, personal or professional. Together, each of us can overcome any challenge. Let's build unity and success starting today. Unity starts at home, but it shapes society. It transforms workplaces. Struggling with your relationship challenges, probably or possibly even your parenting difficulties, navigating parenting time as a divorced or divorcing parent can be tough. Let's talk. There are ways to get through this and build upon the honesty and truth that you share with each other. We can get beyond that saying things just to say them, but saying the truth. Don't buffer it. Let's get down to that bottom line. We can turn that frustration into understanding. You can ask yourself, what the frustration? Find value in your actions instead of reacting in anger. Anger holds no value. It's just actions not gaining effective results. ANGER. Actions not gaining effective results. Yes, life happens in every relationship, from personal to professional, from parenting time to partnerships, from bedrooms or the boardroom. We can learn to embrace the challenges together if we want to. We've got to have that decision made so we have one vision, one goal, achieving unity in every area of life. We have the 7 Steps Achieving Unity Success Formula course. The next one's going to be August 7th. They're Thursdays, 1 p.m. in the afternoon, Pacific time, 4 p.m. starting on Eastern time. The 7 module live online course and practical journey with me. We also have the Transfer Your Life and Career Achieving Unity Success Formula 2-day workshops. They are available on site and virtual. Contact me today. We'll set one up with you, your family, your business, your corporation, or your enterprise. It all works the same. We learn to communicate, be open, honest. By caring, helping, and including others, we can all achieve a deeper sense of unity, that connection, that true connection at home, with our families, with our spouses, at work, with our bosses, with that C suite, and also socially on the internet. We have, again, the Achieving Unity Success Formula podcast every week, every Wednesday. Next week, on April 16th, it'll be Win Anyway, Rich Hopkins, an international award-winning speaker. Following week, we have the Dad Edge with Larry Hagner. Then we have Polishing Your Presence for Impact with Tom Coben. It'll be here at the last Wednesday of the month. Then starting in May with Asian Pacific Islander Month with John Chen. Then on May 14th, we'll have the Business Ethics in a Multicultural Environments with Alan Gatlin. And as we know, our world is growing smaller every day because right now we could be talking with someone that's somewhere else around the world. This is about multicultural environments globally. But here is the star of our show, a good friend of mine that I think the world of. We've talked many times. She is here to talk about leadership, resilience, and team retention. Rose coaches and mentors mid-career executives and other leaders. She teaches with them one-on-one, and she uses her authentic leadership from the Heart program so that they can thrive instead of burning out or selling their souls. How many times we get into work and we just get burned out? We give up. We start making decisions that aren't the decisions that we know are correct. Through her coaching, she helps leaders identify and solve the right problems. With 30 years of intensive experience in brain science and high performance coaching, Rose has coached and mentored hundreds of heart based leaders to greater success at work and in life. Rose empowers heart centered leaders for impactful success. Please help me welcome Rose Harrow.
Thanks,
Hey,
Mark.
Rose, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
It is exciting to have you here. We've talked many times, and I just love the things that you do, what you share with so many people. And I just want to be able to share some of that with our audience because their first thing I think I want to know, and our audience may want to know, is what was that aha moment that led you to create the Authentic Marketing from the Heart program for entrepreneurs?
Well, there were a bunch of sparks, but the one that comes to mind is that I found myself in a circumstance. I had been in practice for several years and loved it. It was doing really well. And then there was a circumstance that came up in my life where I really needed to increase my income. And I realized I had never known how to market. In fact, I was kind of proud I didn't market. It was all word of mouth, and that worked great. And so I realized, okay, I need to get over that and learn about marketing. So I took a class in ethical marketing. I looked a long time before I found somebody that I felt taught marketing in a way that was respectful and felt right to me. So I loved it. To my surprise, I just loved it. And so I immersed myself in studying marketing until I finished a program that certified me as a business coach. So I was really fascinated by marketing was not what I had always thought it was. I think it has a
Yes.
bad reputation in certain circles, but um, it's I like to do it like a salad bar. Here's what I've got, and see anything you want? Yes, no, fine. So it's
I
really,
like that concept.
yeah, it's really respectful. So and what crystallized it into really forming a program with structure was realizing how many of my friends were in self-employed and service businesses, and they also didn't know how to market. And so I created a structured program that just guides people through the different steps of coming to terms with how they feel about money and um, self-awareness, a lot of different
Right.
pieces like that.
That's excellent. Well, how did you start? There's one of your many aha moments. How did you start in life and your work life and being able to connect with some of these people?
Well, I was getting phone calls from people like one therapist who called me almost in tears, and she said, "I'm exhausted. I'm booked solid, and I'm not making enough money to stay in business. Do you think I should quit?"
Yeah.
And I said, it sounds like we need to look at your business structure. This was a stranger calling me. We need to find out where the time and money leaks are because you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And within 4 months, we had restructured her business and she was less stressed, less frazzled. She was able to be more present with her clients. And she also improved her income. So she wasn't burning out. Burning out seems like a real common theme in business these days.
It seems like people are putting a lot of hours into their business in
And
regards to
And a lot of times their marketing program is what I call a hope and pray method, and it reminds me of like in the old days where the girl had to sit by the phone and hope the guy is going to call. And it's really it's not a good way to run a business at all. So yeah, creating a little structure that's flexible so each person can supplement what they have not yet learned and need to know really works well. And it's fun. It's fun for me. It's fun for them. I mean, sometimes people start laughing and they say, I could do this. I could really do this and feel like myself.
I like that. That is so true because there's so many small things that we don't know as I work with
Mhm,
not just on the marketing side, but
mhm,
within the relationship side and how people will do things that don't make sense
mhm,
and they expect so much more what they do, then
And it's what
it's
they've always seen. It's what
it
they've seen
is.
other people do. And the other people aren't getting any results either. I've been in business long enough to have seen people's whole career arc, as it were, and to see how they start out and what they're doing for marketing and what they're doing for programs. And then I see it evolve over time. And I also have gotten to know some of them, like the behind the scenes. And you cannot imitate how somebody else has built their business and have it really fit for you because you're a different person. And so one of the first things I do when I start working with somebody is we do some archetype assessments and really do a deep dive in self-awareness. And we build the program around that. You know, why not play to their strengths? If somebody's an extreme introvert, I'm probably not going to encourage them to do a lot of public speaking, at least not in the beginning.
Right.
It was just terrifying to them. Whereas, low key networking is going to fit them much better, one to one. Just depends on their personality.
It does. And I think what you're saying too about imitating another business, it might work in some cases, but each business is separate and it has its own aura, right?
Yeah,
What it does, how it
yeah.
grows forward. You can't just put a storefront out because someone else did, because people don't know about your business. They don't know that you're there, right?
It's like you can't wear somebody else's clothes. They won't fit, they won't feel right. Um, but it's interesting to me, like working in different countries and the different cultural differences. Um, there's a lot of similarities. There are cultural differences, and you have to tune into that and respect them. But I've found that in every country I've worked in, there are striking similarities. Um, yeah, I mean, there are countries where women are really not supposed to have an opinion or speak out. And in many countries, there's a struggle for entrepreneurs, for people who have their own service-based business, who don't have a system. They're just floundering around the hope and pray method and very frustrated because they know that what they offer is really good, it's really valuable. But if nobody knows you exist, you don't really have a business.
Who's going to be able to purchase from you? If they don't know you're there,
Hmm.
how are they going to know to come to your store or your business? Be
That's
able to
right.
purchase from you. And then if they're not purchasing from you, how are you going to earn an income?
Yeah. They're not going to find you sitting in your living room, right?
No.
You have to make yourself a little bit more available.
And
So,
even like you're saying though, Rose, even if you're sitting in your office, you'll be sitting in
mhm,
your office 8, 10 more hours a day. But if no one knows where your office is, if no
mhm,
one knows your phone number, and nowadays, of course, there's a website, email
right.
address. If
Or
no
what
one
kind of,
knows,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, going to say probably the same thing. If no one knows you're there, how
Hmm.
can they come see you?
Hmm. Yes, and you have some people know how to get a lot of attention, make a lot of noise or whatever, and they do a good job of that. But they don't do a good job of letting people know what kind of results. They talk about, oh, I've got the workbook, I've got the this, the that, but they don't talk about here are the results you can expect, or that the results depend on people taking steps. But um, they need to know what you're about. They need to know what kind of outcomes you set them up to be able to have.
And the
So,
product has to be valuable too, Rose, right? You want to make sure that there's value in what's
mhm,
said. You can't say that I like this, I love this, but then you're off doing something else. You're
mhm,
not focusing that, oh, I love that so much. Just everything, but then it's dropped because something else comes up in their eyesight, and especially with marketing, that
mhm,
next bright light, that next flash, that next wall to bounce off of, something else is there. And when they say they love it and then they're not sticking with it,
mhm.
there's not value, right?
Right. And sometimes they don't stick with it because they're not seeing results or because it may be a program that doesn't fit for them, right? That doesn't, when you're doing a program or following a structure that really feels like you, it doesn't take that much discipline to stick with it because the reward is coming. You're getting the results, you're attracting the right clients. And that goes for marketing. It also goes for leadership. which is I kind of over the years I noticed a lot of my clients were executives or managers, different kinds of leaders, and I became really fascinated by the challenges that they have and the fact that they don't have that many people they can talk to, right? You know, people talk about being lonely at the top, and it doesn't have to be lonely at the top, but it can be.
Not at all.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's a choice too, though, isn't it, Rose? Being
Well,
lonely at the
yeah, yeah, it is, but you have to be selective. You know, let's say you're CEO of a big company. How many people can you let your hair down with that don't have a stake in you being this way or that way? People that you can really confide in and say, I'm stuck. One of my older sisters was actually an executive coach also, a long time ago, before it was a thing. And she would have CEOs of huge companies sitting across from her. They'd be having a business lunch and they'd lean in and they'd say, I really don't know what I'm doing. And she would say, you know what? That's a fact. That's not a fact. It's a feeling. I've seen your balance sheet. I know the numbers for your company. You're doing great, but you're feeling really unsteady. You know, so just separate the facts from the feelings and let's address that, you know, let's take care of that.
and I like what you're saying about that, the facts from the feelings, because that is so can be so detrimental, and that goes into several, I think, subjects we've already talked on, even back to, as you mentioned, when women were just coming into the workforce in a lot of ways. They were thinking
Hmm.
about that. Well, should I do this? Is this right? And based on, again, that small world being lonely at the top, if you
Hmm.
have a small group of the theoretical five people, as Jim Rohn said, you're most like the five people you hang around with the
Hmm.
most. If the
Yeah.
people that you're hanging around with are not of an education level, desire level, or a quality level as you are, that could bring you down. Or if you aren't for others, you
Hmm.
can bring others down. So
Hmm.
that's what I'm getting at with the choice of the process. We need to hang around people that are searching for the same values. And I think
Hmm.
what you're talking about with your program, authentic marketing from the heart, our heart truly has to be bringing out that right idea, that
Hmm.
right value to take forward, right?
Yes, and the same thing with my program, Authentic Leadership from the Heart. There are a lot of similarities. You know, in the there's like old school managing styles, which came like a lot of it evolved out of the Industrial Revolution, where people were supposed to just operate the machinery, just follow the rule book, don't think, don't improvise, don't get creative, just, you know, become part of the machinery basically. And our whole school system is set up along those lines. That's one of the impetus in the original school systems that were they wanted people to be able to read so they could read the instruction manuals for the industrial machinery, and education kind of came out of that. And over time, people started realizing, well, life isn't like that. You know, we need to be able to think. We want to raise children to be able to think. So yeah,
And when
go ahead.
it, when we think like that, that's to improve the process, right? That's
Hmm.
what thinking is about.
Yeah.
Here's how
And
we're
then
doing it to,
yeah, and to have choice, like you said earlier, you know, to be able to be at choice instead of I'm doing it the way I saw somebody else do it, and it goes on generation after generation. But in business, you know, in leadership and management, it was do what I tell you to do because I told you to do this. And there was an airline, this is some years ago, and I don't remember the name of the airline, which is probably just as well. But the culture at that airline was do not question the boss. Whoever your higher up is, no questions of the boss, just do what you're told. And they had some safety issues that caused a lot of crashes. And it was not an American airline, by the way. And they had a lot of crashes. And finally, they realized that the crashes were happening because the employees were noticing safety issues, but they felt forbidden from being able to say anything to the boss. They were afraid it was going to be taken as criticism. And so finally, they realized that culture had to change, that corporate culture had to change to allow feedback And the bosses had to be flexible enough to be willing to hear bad news or the truth or people's true feelings, which just works better.
It does. And well, I think we're both saying that ability to speak up about improvements,
Mhm.
not just doing that same thing every day, to grow
Yeah.
to that next level of education, that next level of knowledge takes
Mhm.
us to the point of being able to learn from what we did yesterday. It didn't
Yeah.
it didn't work then. Let's go to something new now. And that can be in personal relationships, in corporations, on enterprises, small business. And as I think about it, and we have a lot of governmental areas that do that, government agencies that have copied from generation to generation, culture to culture.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we haven't learned, but we see it. What can we do to take those steps? And I guess I'm going to be putting you on the spot when I say that because I don't know if you have it available, but
Well,
your
yeah,
5 stages of your program.
yeah, that's part of why I do what I do. When I was young, just out of college, I worked for a large um, organization, and I had over the years I was there, I had many different kinds of bosses and managers. So I got to see a lot of different leadership styles, and it was quite the education. So so I learn from every experience that I have. And so the way I put things together includes all my formal training and education and also my experiences as a human being. So, yeah, it makes a huge difference. I mean, what this goes into the topic of employee retention. And it has been said that employees don't quit their job, they quit their boss. And if you are in an advisory, well, okay, if you're a manager in an organization at any level, and you create a climate, you create an environment where the people who work there feel valued, appreciated, listened to. Listening is super important, um, and responded to, then they're not going to want to go somewhere else. It's really not rocket science. So much of this boils down to the big secret in retaining your employers is be nice to people. Just treat them with respect, the way you'd like to be treated. And to do that really successfully, you have to hire wisely. That makes a difference, and I love the whole topic of hiring smart. That's for another day, but yeah, if you hire people well, then you should respect them enough to give them some leeway to be creative and to come to you with better ideas.
I like what you're saying because that word of respect and it comes into value because as we're talking about our culture, relationships, our business, here's a relationship I had previously. I'm going to take those things forward with my culture. Here's a business I worked for previously. It didn't work, but I still bring it forward because I know it. Here's another relationship I've been in. It didn't work either. What am I doing to improve my processes so the next one will not be the same and I don't treat them the same? Same
Mhm,
thing in the corporate world in the business.
mhm,
It worked one time because I think like you're saying, it's what we knew. We were
mhm.
comfortable with it, a comfort level perhaps, but it wasn't producing or it doesn't produce the value going forward, right?
Yes, and it really helps. Some people have just never seen a model of a different kind of leadership, and we don't know what we don't know, right? We just think that's the way it is. I remember years ago, one of the bosses was just sort of um, not even human. And that's what he had learned was how you manage people, how you supervise people, is you just be very firm and unyielding, or they'll take advantage of you. And it really backfired on him. People didn't like him. They pushed back every chance they got. It was really kind of sad. And there were other managers and supervisors there who were much more relaxed and human, and people loved them and were happy to work with them, work for them, work overtime if it was necessary. It made a huge difference. But the first guy had never seen, apparently he wasn't picking things up from his colleagues that were supervising in a much more um, human and flexible way. And people did not take advantage of the nice guys, because they respected them, they were managing well, the results were coming, and the work was getting done. So,
And that brings up a good point too, as you bring up the nice guys. Sometimes can the nice guy also be a pushover? Male or
well,
female, man or woman, mother or father? Can't they also be a pushover and let too much go in that
sure, sure.
niceness?
So I'm really glad you brought this up, Mark. So there's a fine line, maybe not such a fine line, really big, wide line between people who have no boundaries and no self-respect, who let others walk all over them, and they're not clear. Yes, I'm the boss, you're the employee. Okay, that's clear. Here's the expectations, here's our standard, here's how we do things, and we're going to do an evaluation. Do you have any questions or any input? But like there's structure. It's not just a loosey-goosey free-for-all. So, when they say nice guys finish last, it depends on how you define nice guys, right? So you could be
And does it also how you define last? I mean, please go ahead. But
right,
this is,
right. Yeah, there's a lot in that little statement that can lead you astray or can open up a big conversation. But yeah, you can be you don't, it's not two ends of the spectrum, like you're a horrible ogre or you're a marshmallow. There's so much space in between. And really good leadership is like somewhere where it's balanced, where there's a structure. People know what to expect and they know the standards, so they feel pride in working there. They feel elevated by going up to those standards and working there feels good.
and I like the way you say that too, because that stringent to the marshmallow that you just talked about. And that's what I work on is that achieving unity success formula,
Yeah.
bringing those together. There are times you still have to draw lines.
Mhm.
Everything is not gray, but the way you bring it about and the way you've told over and over and over, and it doesn't mean there's not going to be some strong situations, but
Mhm.
that ability to pull that hardness in that marshmallow, put some medium tones in the process so we have that respect for each other, right?
Yes, yes, very much so.
Build build that value,
Hmm.
come together,
Yeah.
bring those together so that when you're at the end, you turn that hard metal into a stick and you have the marshmallow on the end of it. You roast marshmallows with a fire.
Yeah, you
That
toast them.
is, that's right. We can do that,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
takes that communication and that collaboration, which you're talking about, with that quality that comes
Hmm.
in with the marketing from the heart.
Hmm.
And that's what has to be there with, as I always say, honesty and truth, accountability and responsibility.
Yeah.
They all come together. They're not hardcore rules that we can't follow. They're just that word that you use, just the respect for
Hmm.
each other.
Hmm.
So,
And leadership
d-
is the same way, and the communication, you talk about communication. Um, Communication works best when you understand how people process information differently. And some people are primarily auditory, auditory, and some people are primarily visual, and some people are primarily kinesthetic, right? They need to get their hands on it and do it. Now I understand what you want me to do, boss. And again, my same sister who was a business coach, she's quite a bit older than me, but she had an assistant who was wonderful, but every day there was like a few things that just didn't get done, didn't get taken care of. And she said, I don't understand it. Does she have an attitude problem or what? And I said, find out how she processes information. She may not be auditory. She may be primarily visual. So write down what you want her to do each day and give it to her that way. And so my sister started doing that. Problem solved. Turned out
wow.
the assistant was not auditory. It was just she couldn't keep it in her head. It just didn't land any place for her.
Mhm.
And so some things that look like, and this is true for children too, for people of all ages, or when an employee is talking to the boss, it may look like a behavior issue or like an attitude issue, and it's really that it just didn't land in their brain.
It doesn't. And sometimes there's this situation where we need to outlaw the desire for mind reading. I mean, we wanting other people to read our minds when we're not even being clear. Like you said, sometimes it's auditory, sometimes it's written down. But when people want us to mind read, we think someone else knows what we know. And we just talked about the cultures that are out there, the different types
Mhm.
of people, but
Yeah,
we're thinking that someone else is reading our mind or know what we know. And so many times that just doesn't happen. Business
yeah.
to business, your marketing, the business to customer, right?
Yeah, and I like to go beyond like basic communication skills into an area that I call soft skills, which is a lot of times not addressed, and it's not just words, but it's really tuning into um, body posture, tone of voice. If somebody says, "Sure, I'll be there at noon," well, they're kind of pulling back a little bit like that. Um, and also with traveling, sometimes I'm sort of embarrassed for other people who, if they don't speak the same language, they just speak louder. Like, well, I'm sure if I talk loud enough, you can understand me, right? Well, no, it's not the same thing. So it takes a certain amount of discipline and giving people the benefit of the doubt with communicating. And then
And I like what you,
go
I'm sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, always working on our skills. There's
Our
no end to
skills.
learning.
Mhm.
Skills and tools.
I spent the winter 22, 23 down in Mexico, and it was awesome. And I saw that I got to see more of when they talk about United States citizens traveling and
Hmm.
how up here that when we think, of course, I deal with anger and hate and prejudice, but when we think that yelling at someone does value, that anger, and anger is nothing more than action is not gaining effective results. We take
Yeah.
that, as you just said, Rose, to when someone else can't understand us, what do? As you just mentioned, we
Hmm.
talk louder, thinking that means something, but it means about just about as much there when they don't speak the same language as it does in the office or the family or the
Absolutely.
home.
Yeah.
Because if their other person's not listening, somehow you have to find another path.
Or they're
Providing
listening,
the
but they're
auditory,
not. Yeah, they're not here. Yeah, right. Exactly. Any two people on the planet, right? People who love each other enough to get married, and then they are, amazed to discover when I say this, you hear that. Oh my goodness, what are we
Mhm.
going to do now? It takes
it
it.
is, it's,
Go ahead. It takes
it
work.
takes a lot. Yeah.
But I
And that
love the first time I heard you say, anger really has no value. There it is. Even somebody who doesn't want to be pleasant, nice person, right? If they're just like a hardcore business person, then they see that anger is such a waste of energy and time, which means it's a waste of money. So even from a selfish point of view, anger has no value.
it doesn't. And we get frustrated, as in I do in the introduction about what the frustration? Frustration causes so much of the issue. And even as you mentioned earlier with the auditory or the verbal, and when the auditory's not working, the speaking's not working, and then you
Hmm.
write it down or you send it in notes, and that
Hmm.
doesn't work either.
Hmm.
There's got, what do you do?
Yeah, that's a big question, and it depends on the circumstance. Even traveling using a translating app, that it worked great most of the time, but once in a while it would be like, what? I'd look at the other person and they'd look at me and we'd both agree. This makes no sense. The translating is not happening right here. So you want another pillow? Or, oh, one place I was at a really nice hotel in China, and I needed a charger for my phone. And I couldn't figure there wasn't anything in the room that looked like a charger to me. So I called the front desk and I said, do you have anybody who speaks English? And they gave me to their best translator. And I said, I need a charger. And she said, you need doctor? And I thought, oh, this isn't going well. So I kind of gave up on that. And I don't know what I did. I figured it out somehow. But yeah.
That is funny. As I mentioned in Mexico, I used the translator on my phone, and so did she, my housekeeper. That's how we translated back and forth to each other. And then
Hmm.
we would laugh because we could see some mistranslations. She
Hmm.
was great, but it was fun if we took it in that fun attitude,
Yeah.
knowing it's not going to be perfect, but it was a way for us
Hmm.
to translate using that telephone and technology, which again, I'm in Mexico where technology is not that advanced.
Hmm.
And it was a small town that was on the coast, but it was interesting to see how people were growing into it and kind of like being excited about it. And it's kind of their heart was in it.
Hmm.
And that was the best part and that's one of the things I talk about too with, as you're saying, with communicating with people. And we get into situations where we're around others who may not have an accepted, I don't quite know how to say it, but an accepted education level. So they're kind of disparaged, they're kind of pushed aside. But those same people may want to be part of that marketing from the heart. They want to be part of it and they're willing to learn, but they just don't know how yet.
Hmm.
And and I talk about that. How does your program help clients keep their hearts in the game while also watching that bottom line?
Well, my program always starts with people getting in touch more with themselves and what really matters to them. And so I don't, most people start building, most coaches start building on step 3 or 4. And I always wonder, like, how can you skip step 1 or 2? And those steps are about going inside and becoming
So
much more,
step one is going inside. Is
going
that what you're
inside,
saying?
becoming self-aware,
Okay.
becoming much more aware of yourself. And when people really touch into their true self and their big why and the fact that they can organize their life around this, it really lights them up. It lights them up. And built into the program, the leadership program, are tools for stress relief because there's going to be stress sometimes, right?
Definitely.
So tools for
Life
stress relief.
happens.
Yeah, it does, sure. And for tuning up the brain. And this increases resourcefulness, which improves their chances of finding solutions to whatever situation they find themselves in. And one, I don't know, I guess I'm in the minority, but I always assume there's a solution in any situation. And so then I start
Oh, I'm
looking.
with you 100%.
Yeah,
As I tell
yeah,
you, it's on my side. I think it may have been on my slide. I can't remember now, but uh, reality focused dynamics, creating solutions one reality at a time.
yeah.
That's my
And
logo. We go ahead.
yeah. And if you don't think there is a solution, you won't even look for it, which is guaranteed, failure. So just starting out like, okay, there's maybe several solutions here that we're not yet seeing. Let's find them. Let's find them, and then we can choose the best ones. So I
I
don't,
am so with you.
yeah, yeah. I think we're both doing the same kind of work from the same heart space,
Mhm.
just we use slightly different words and slightly different approaches, but it's
There are approaches to that, but I think we are parallel in our ideas and concepts. You mentioned the one, mentioned the three, and maybe you mentioned them all, but would you mind, could you go through your 5 steps, your 5 stages of your
sure,
program? Do you have them
sure.
handy to
Yeah, let me just
share
find
with us?
because they flex, they flex a little bit, but
That
what,
makes sense.
yeah. But I have like a structure, and then the structure holds the space for the flexible parts, the creative parts of the program to be able to, it's like a really flexible vine does really well on a trellis. But how we fill it in is different with each person. So generally, when I work one-to-one with people, we set up a structure for their needs. So we create it together. We co-create it, usually a 6-month program, because there's a lot of mindset changes and realizations. And, you've got years of doing things in a way that, like you said, didn't really work. Let's learn, let's do something different. And so we do some assessments that have to do with their archetypes, which is just their natural way of being. If somebody's a natural nurturer, they overgive, and so they may need to learn more about boundaries, right? If somebody is a natural uh, leader in too harsh of a way, too strong of a way. They need to learn about softening and softer leadership skills, softer communication skills. So then we zero in on what their big why is. What is their big why? There are people who just plain need to make more money because they have a family to support. And so that has to happen. We still want it to be something that lights them up. But there can always be a management style that can fulfill those needs and allow them to fulfill their big why. And then we
And
get,
that why is the reason. Sorry to interrupt you here, but again, for people to understand, your why is your reason, right?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
what the why is about, that you have a reason. You have
yeah.
a priority behind this, right?
Right. And some people spend a lot of their life looking for their why. I was speaking with a woman at a networking meeting last night, and she just said, I don't really know what my purpose is. I like my work, but still feel like I haven't zeroed in on, oh yeah, this is where I belong. This is what I'm on this earth to do. Because once you get that, it gives you a lot of energy. It's wonderful. So we do our best to zero in on that. And then we get clarity of like, well, are you where you should be? Should you be the CEO of this organization? Is it making your life miserable? Can we restructure that so that you can stay where you are and not have to leave that job? It's maybe some different way of looking at the job, maybe some skills, some communication skills that you're putting out energy that is causing pushback that doesn't need to be there. Let's take care of that, right? So we kind of fine tune that. And then we organize their strong points and supplement their not so strong points. Like let's say a CEO is coming into a meeting and they have to make an announcement. There are so many different ways they can language that announcement, like I'm going to have to make you do this, overtime and this and this and this. Or here's the challenge we have, and here are some ideas I have about solutions, and I welcome your input. How different do those two things feel, right? So we look at that for whatever their situation is. And then we strategize like how to go forward and actually create a structured plan to to include. I know this is big for you too, to include people. Why should we waste
Mhm.
anybody's resources?
That's right.
So I kind of lost track because they're not like boom, boom, boom. They're areas of focus that overlap a little bit and they interlock. One of my new clients once said, "Oh my gosh, these pieces all fit together." And I said, "Yeah, I created it that way." So
Exactly.
yeah, but it
And
all
that's one of the things. Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
uh,
That's one of the things about what we're talking about is that when we put them together, this is what I see, is when you put them together, they make sense.
mhm.
But if you challenge the pieces in the puzzle that fit, you're going to be able to create that frustration that then causes that anger, and then that creates that hate and that rage. And it's just one of those things of those troubled expectations, hate, Hate, having accelerated troubled expectations. That's what you're creating in the process. Instead of creating those leadership plans in the process, it's so much about understanding what we're doing
Yeah,
first, right?
yeah. And some of it comes from unconscious expectations, like the old story about two people, there's one orange, and two people want the orange, and they assume that they can't both get their needs met. So they feel like they're at odds. And this happens politically, like everybody wants,
Hmm?
a good family and a food to eat, shelter, and some, you know, almost everybody, really all over the world, every culture, they want basically the same thing. But if you think that you can't both get what you want, the win-win concept is so critical. You're going to argue. And then, but as the story goes, one person finally says, well, what do you want the orange for? Oh, well, I just need the peel. I'm baking a cake. I just need the peel. And the other one says, well, I only need the juice. Well, there's no problem here. They can both get what they need.
Mhm.
And I like to assume there's probably a way that both parties can win because you talk about sustainability. Win-lose is not sustainable. Who wants to take turns losing, right? People talk about compromise. That's basically taking turns losing when you can actually both win if that's your priority. How can we make sure this is going to be okay without feeling like I need the whole orange? So,
And sometimes when that happens, I love that story because the orange itself is separatable. And there's seeds inside the orange to plant more if we just take it to that next level. And
that's right.
sometimes, well, that person can't eat a whole orange anyway.
Hmm.
They may want a part of it.
Yeah,
So being
I
able
love
to
that.
peel the orange, take out the sections, pull out the seeds.
Hmm.
Most times they're not going to be eaten anyway, but
Hmm.
to take it down and breaking the reality down to solutions, one reality at a time, that's where the solution comes from. And that's where we are each and every day, right?
Hmm. And maybe there's a way one person can bring some tea and you can have some friendship happening.
You have oranges. Can you bring champagne? You have to think about
Strawberries, maybe a cookie or two.
what is that? You make a mimosa and the orange juice and champagne? I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just one of those that it's all about, like you're saying, working together and what we do and where we go, where we are going. And as I talk about that and look at that, we have about 9 minutes left. Can you, as your, how do your personal styles groove with your coaching style? How are you able to be able to take those same parts of the entrepreneur, heart-centered entrepreneurs into your own business? How do you make those go in sync?
I never separate them in the first place. I mean, you years ago, I knew somebody who was an engineer. And I remember him saying, when I go to work in the morning, I have to brace myself because the boss just pushes us all. No listening, it's top-down management, and a lot of the things that we're required to do don't make any sense. The boss sells product before we've created it, and we're not even sure it's going to work. And then we have to scramble and make it work. And he said, when I come home at night, it takes me about an hour to turn back into myself. So that's a real division. And he was really resentful of how much of his energy it took to have that split going on. And if you've done step one and two thoughtfully, you're going to find that it starts to just show up everywhere in your life because it's your most natural way of being. So you'll have less friction, more energy, more joy.
When it becomes a natural motion, when it just becomes, that's the best way to do it. That's, again, for me, as I look at it, that's our reality,
Hmm. Yeah,
putting it together.
yeah. It's
Because
a much more natural way to be,
it
right?
is much more natural.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and like you're talking about how you word things, I think is great because you're talking about that CEO and says, saying, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, instead
Hmm.
of the words that you used about putting the I into a we. We
Hmm.
need to do this.
Hmm.
Here's what I'm doing. How can you help me? Which is
Hmm.
what a team does, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because,
Can I share a story about?
oh, would you please?
Okay, so one of my clients. Oh, so many good stories, but this is the one I think I'll tell here. One of my clients was top level manager at a Fortune 500 company. And the Fortune 500 company was suddenly undergoing a hostile takeover. And the new owners were making a lot of pretty bad decisions. I mean, really bad decisions, such that many of the department heads quit. Their teams quit, and then the department heads quit. So the place was kind of getting hollowed out. This is years ago. And my client really wanted to stay and had a team that they liked working with. And so we put our heads together and we strategized a plan that would motivate the team to stay and motivate my client to also be happy staying there in a job that was manageable, right? And it worked. It was kind of an involved strategy, but it worked really beautifully. And her team was dazzled by the solution, which actually turned out to be kind of simple, but it made it worth their while to stay. And I'll just give you a clue. It was not Pizza Fridays. Um, I know of a company, a large company. I knew it from the beginning when it was small, and it's now, I don't know, multi-million dollar company. I see it when I travel. I see it in gift shops and airports and stuff. But I knew it when it was small, and um, this they didn't do it that way. They didn't. They had the boss was somebody who's not well liked and not well respected for good reasons. But the boss decided, okay, morale needs to improve. We're going to improve morale here one way or another. I know, we're going to do Pizza Fridays. And people were like, oh my gosh, he doesn't get it at all, you know. And people get it. People know what's going on. So, something that really lets them know they've been heard and valued and respected. So,
And that's such a great story too to listen to, Rose, because it helps us understand that one idea is not going to work for everyone all the time. We've got
hmm
to be able to open back up what you're saying and ask,
hmm
what can we do?
yeah,
And
yeah,
be able to intrigue some of them to even answer the question, because some of them are not going to speak up, even though they may have a good idea. But to
right.
put that, again, as you mentioned, that turn that I into a we, what can we do? Talk to some of them one on one. Find
hmm
out.
hmm
Because
Yeah.
some people, they just don't want to talk, or they get off onto another subject. After a
Or
time, you got to be able to go ahead.
or they think there's no use. Nobody's going to listen, right?
And wow,
hmm
everyone said they don't think anyone's going to listen when the other person wants to hear if they just would speak up. And that's so important. We have about 3 more minutes. Time has just kind of flown by. Sustainable growth, you talked about that. And maybe if you have a closing, how does grounding a business, success in heart, authenticity, and unity create a recipe for long-term for success for entrepreneurs and executives? How does that success in heart, authenticity, and joining that with my unity, how can that help create, be a recipe for long-term success for entrepreneurs and executives?
You ask great questions, Mark.
Oh, you're so kind, Rose. Thank you.
Well, if you want heart authenticity, and a grounded business, nothing else will work. Nothing else is real. That has to be from the beginning your goal. Like this is what we want to create. And of course, the leader sets the tone. You start by being that yourself and being congruent, that having your words and your actions match. And with that as a grounding, the relationships within the business get better and better and better over the years. Um, and your clients, your customers, the other people that work in that business, they're going to feel it. They're going to want to stay. They're going to want to contribute. They're going to want to be part of this. Years ago in Seattle, there was a store that where the employees were so miserable. You walk in the store and you immediately want to just get out of there. You could feel it. And the store closed very
Wow.
soon after that. And so they didn't have this essential element, right? That based on respect, integrity, honesty, the ability to listen. And I'm going to throw in one other little piece too, is that in my executive program, I make sure and teach CEOs how to cultivate their intuition because that gut check makes a big difference in how you operate things and whether you're really connecting with somebody or not. You might think you
So
are.
that cultivate the intuition. I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but go a little bit further with that just quickly.
Yeah,
Cultivate their intuition.
yeah, so everybody has intuition. Most of us have had it sort of pounded out of us through education, parents, through different life experiences. And everybody has intuition. And a lot of times people will say afterwards, like, oh, I knew better. Why didn't I listen to myself, right? I knew that was a mistake going in. And this will really serve you well when you're managing, supervising, hiring, speaking to your team, having to fire somebody. You can fire somebody gently or roughly, or, hopefully if you've hired well, you won't need to do that. But um, just being tuned in with yourself, all the time if you can, and being tuned into those core values. Um,
I like that.
it all fits
Tuned in
together.
with your, tuned
Yeah.
in with yourself, tuned in with your core values. It all fits together. What a
Mhm.
way to end on that, Rose. Rose Harrow, everybody, please get in touch with her. If you don't have her information, we had it on the screen earlier. Please let me know. Rose, this has been a pleasure. It's been an honor. Thank you for so much what you do. Hope we can
Thank
do
you,
this
Mark.
again. Hope we can do
Yeah,
this again soon.
this is great.
Everyone, every Wednesday, please come back and see us. We'll have Rose, people like Rose coming to see us. We want to talk with you. Want you talking with us. Please get in touch with us. You can contact me at mark@markintrican.com or go to the realityfocusdynamics.com. I want to talk with you and talk with you soon. Thank you all. See you soon. Cheers.